The astral, a fascinating place. Hey, gang, welcome back. Live with the Shaman, continuing our series in the astral. I'm glad you guys could make it this evening. Um, my voice is better than it was this morning for Open Pagan Church. I'll give it that, and I hope it maintains. Yes. Live with the Shaman, Astral Part 3, Moving Around and Astral Travel, and the Astral Self. What is the astral self? Well, last week Sean made mention of why walk. Several other people have made mention, um, why have a landing place? Why have a place that you need to be at all in the astral? In the astral, um, in the astral, you can pretty well travel anywhere you think you're big enough and bad enough to go. Now, that being said, moving around in the astral is not all that tricky once you understand the basics of getting there. And again, these broadcasts through this series is essentially designed for those that have never been. Or if they have been, they don't know how the hell they got there. Or if they got there, they don't know what they're doing once they get there. So, a lot of what I'm going to be speaking about through this video series might seem rather rhetorical or redundant to some of you. Those of you that are a little more experienced in astral travel, traversing the realms, also called moving among the planes, as it were. So, what I want to do is kind of go through again some of the basics. Now, if you want to know what was covered in part 1 and 2, you'll need to go back and watch those videos. I'm going to kind of pick up where those left off, right? So, moving around the astral, let's presume for a moment that you have found your meditative control. You've been able to disassociate the spirit from the body. You've been able to do OBE and interact locally. So this says, okay, I know my body is safe. I know it's okay. I can separate my spirit from the body. So now let's think about traveling, shall we? Not on this plane. It begins with a thought. We think it, and we make it happen. So, moving around in the astral, let's presume that we have found our landing place. Me, like I said, I tend to like to go to the astral garden, sit back, chill out. It's nice and quiet. For me, it's nice and cool. And the flowers are amazing. I love the smell of flowers, pine, and cedar. So, Spirit Guide has been nice enough to have my landing place in a excuse me, in a meadow, and in that meadow is surrounded by cedar and pine. Also in that meadow is surrounded by flowers of unimaginable beauty. There is a very comfortable bench in which I sit on. I can contemplate, and I can just I can just let my brain be for a bit. Now that is my landing place. Your landing place, if you have one, may be different. Eventually, you'll get used to flitting around in the astral with a simple thought. I'd like to be here. You're there. I'd like to see the land of the unicorn. You're there. Um, I would like to go to the astral college and meet my master. You're there. That's a lot of fun. Um, I feel I need warrior training. Well, that's not quite so, and you're there Warrior training, you got to go through stages. Typically, I have found through talking to students in my own history, I found the warrior training through my astral master. I went through steps of training and then I entered the battlefield. Um, yes, do not enter that lighthearted. Do not enter that thinking, me badass, me whoop your ass. Nope. You'll get your ass handed to you because the warriors on the astral battlefield, they are not tied to the same things that this plane is tied to. They don't worry about gravity. They don't worry about the laws of nature. They don't even worry about um, the laws of physics. They do not apply in the astral. The astral has its own laws and rules and regulations, which you will learn. But that is further down the road. I told you, this is a very long series. We're going to be doing this one for a while. I'm not going to rush through it. So tonight, let's kind of flip it a bit. After further thinking about it, we should first learn to see our astral self. Who am I in the astral? What am I in the astral? How the hell do I know what my spirit shape is in the astral? What do I look like to others? Therein lies the variable of perception, right? My two nicknames, Pegasus and Chinook, did not come to me by chance, right? Um, the nickname Chinook was given to me when I was in high school. First time I looked it up, it stood for sinewy horse or Mustang, and also the never dying winds of the mountains. Well, there's a couple of ways we could take that. One, he never shuts up, and two, he's as hard headed as a horse. Well, I'll take either because both fit. And yes, I will leave that one completely open for any pun you guys want to come up with. So the first time I entered the astral, I spent, I don't know, several of my first trips into the astral just enjoying the world in which I live, especially the world in which I lived in then, was total, complete, and utter chaos. It was batshit crazy, straight up. So to me, in the beginning, the astral, the astral plane, my landing place, was a very wonderful place. It was a place where I could go and be at peace. It was a place where I could go and not have to worry about anything or anyone. So it looks like we've got some guys having some connectivity issues. And it looks like for a moment, so did I. Alright, looks like we're back and connected anyway. Excuse me. So, how did I find my astral self? Yeah, looks like I dropped internet for a moment. Alright, well, let's see. Looks like I got a bit of a message here. Yep, gotta love cell phone advertisements. Yeah. Alright, so I'm taking a minute to check messages because it does look like we dropped connectivity for just a moment. It does look like I'm still streaming, so you guys post over there if you can. Sean says, Facebook not working right. Bank says, you don't have enough money. What else is new? Alright, so you reply to this one moment. I apologize for my rudeness. Right. Okay, if you guys can hear me, please say so. If you guys can see and hear what I'm saying, there we go. Alright, I refreshed. I can see and hear you, he says. Fixed it. Hoorah. Alright. Onward and upward. Gotta love Facebook. Irritates the shit out of me. Anyway, so how do you tell? How do you tell and how can you see yourself, your astral self? Well, there's several different ways. Sean says, I hear you and see you. Clint says, I hear you and see you. Danae says, yep. Right. There's several different ways, right? One, if you have a landing zone, a place where you drop in on the astral, take a look at your hands, your body, look at yourself, you know, see if you have hands. And in most cases, and I say most, it's been my experience working with students, when they first find their landing place in the astral, the newcomers, when they're first practicing, when they find their landing place, yes, you are yourself. You are a representation of yourself, right? So, I later found my two nicknames actually had a place, and I will cover that in a little bit. But there is another way that you can find your astral self. Locate a body of water. If you don't see one, ask for one. It's amazing the things that can pop up in astral upon request. I don't recommend you order one. I said it, so shall it be. No, not recommended. But anyway, ask for one. Could I have a looking glass, please? May I have a mirror? May I have something reflective? I would like to see who or what I am in the astral. Well, don't be disappointed your first couple of times out if you look like you. If you look like the you that stares back at you in the mirror. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't be disappointed. You may not have found your spirit self yet. You may not have a spirit self yet. You may not ever have a spirit self. So don't be disappointed if you don't, right? So, after quite some time, after quite some time of going to the astral, sitting with spirit guide, becoming comfortable with my landing place, becoming comfortable with who I am, right? Spirit guide, if I remember the communication, the conversation correctly, he said, it's time. It is time. Time for your next step. It is time for you to embrace your spirit self. Okay. Sure. Whatever. And I stood up and I noticed I wasn't standing per se, but I was. My sight was still my own. I didn't see things any differently than I do on this plane. And I looked down and I no longer had feet per se, but I had 4 feet that were hooves. So I looked at my spirit guide and I said, well, what the hell am I? He said, what is your nickname? Chinook? No. The teacher. Pegasus. The winged horse. Some people call me a winged jackass. I'm okay with that. He said, right. Come. So he took me to a small body of water and I looked. And staring down at me was a whitish gray horse. Um, of course, I'm trying to use hands that aren't hands anymore. They're feet now. They're hooves. So I picked one up and I looked at it and I thought, shit, no fingers. Um, okay, I'll put it back down. And I looked at him and I said, if I am a horse, how am I still able to talk to you using human language? He said, this is the astral. You communicate in whatever language you're comfortable with. Okay, fine. Now, again, I say, this is for those who are just beginning, those who are just coming into astral travel, wanting to know what it's about, wanting to know who and what they are. Okay? Spirit Guide then looked me square in my horsey looking face and said, do you remember all of the years that you felt as if you were flying? That you felt as you were traversing planes at the speed of light? That you were flying with no effort whatsoever? Yeah, sure. That was a dream. No, that part was not dream. And that's when we discussed black and white versus vibrant color. And Spirit Guide explained to me that most human dreams typically are black and white. Astral is vibrant color. Okay. He said, now, it's when he started teaching me of the things that I could do consciously. I knew I was a Pegasus in the astral. I also knew I was me in the astral. He said, what is your other nickname? Chinook? He said, right. He said, now look down at your feet. I looked down at my feet. I could see my legs. My legs were bare. I had on a kilt. I had on a lannay. I had on hand-laced, handmade leather boots. What the hell? He said, now, look at the water. Pardon me. So I looked at the water and my hair and beard was a lot longer than it is now. A lot redder than it is now. My eyes were still the same though. I could tell it was me instantly because it was my eyes, right? And when I looked down and I turned around and I'm talking to Spirit Guide, all of a sudden I had no problem with the Scottish brogue. I speak it quite plainly. I was speaking to him in full Highlander. There was no having trying to go, to just work it out. It just come out of my mouth. Well, I was taken aback. I've never been taught how to speak Scott before. This was mid to late 90s. What am I doing? Where am I from? What the hell? Well, Spirit Guide got a bit of a chuckle. He said, now, that is how you find your astral self. You think it and you feel it. Therefore, if it's for you, it is. It will be. And I want you to pay very close attention to that last description. If it is for you, it will be. I don't recommend that you push your boundaries in the astral. Now, you can, and it's recommended to push your personal boundaries. How far you can go, how long you can travel, things you can do, that's the way you learn. But if you go to cross a veil and you're bounced back, or you are suddenly told, don't go there, I recommend that you bow and say thank you and turn around and bugger off. That comes from respect. You want to respect the veils. So let's not get ahead of ourselves here, right? We managed to look and see who and what we are. And like I said, don't be disappointed if for a while you don't find anything but self. You look down at the water, you look in the looking glass, or you look in the mirror in the astral, and all you see is self looking back at you. Don't be disheartened and don't be disappointed. That's normal. It may take you some time before Spirit Guide or Master, depending on which you have, takes you through the training of becoming one with spiritual self. Okay? And some of the people over there going, I've never had black and white dreams. Well, okay. So you're not normal. But we know this. And it's okay not to be normal. Normal's boring. But I'm speaking on a universal term. I get it. My wife does not have black and white dreams. She has vivid color dreams. Always fascinated the hell out of me. But anyway, onward and upward. So moving around in the astral, right? You've located your landing place. You've met your spirit guide, I hope, or your master, depending, teacher, whatever you call them, whatever you want to call them. Some spirit animal, okay, fine, whatever. But you have met your spirit guide. You've communicated with your spirit guide, and I've had a number of students say, what is my purpose? What am I here for? Why am I here? What am I doing? Most of the time, Spirit Guide will tell you that answer will come. And they're right. The answer will come in time. The astral is a wonderful place to exercise patience. Some of you watching this evening, I know that patience are not your strong suit. I want it now. Well, some of you may not get it now. Some of you may just have to sit back and F and breathe and deal with it. Right? One of the things you don't want to do in the astral is rush it. Enjoy it. Be who you think you want to be. Um, Mentioned in the chat room Maybe we are our own spirit guide. Well, I have a song for you. It's called I Am My Own Grandpa. YouTube it, Google it. You'll get a giggle out of it. You can be your own spirit guide if you want. I like having a spirit guide. I like having someone that I can communicate with and ask questions of. Someone that's not tied to this physical plane and the dormant elements and weaknesses of human beings that always think that they're something that they're not. So, with that, it always kept me humble. Spirit guide, astral master, um, the master of the battlefield, the caretaker of the library, the librarian, all of these beings that I have met in the astral have kept me humble, right? So I've quite enjoyed that. So, how do we get around in the astral? How do we move around in the astral? Well, some would say they go where they're damn well please. Okay, shame on you, you rock on you and your bad self. I recommend that you first start by walking. I don't care if you have wings. I don't care if you're able to tunnel. I don't care if you're able to swim underwater for uh, indefinite. Okay, if you're related to a sea creature, if you're related to a winged creature, or if you just think it, poof, you're there. I recommend you use this as a humbling learning experience. Some of you may think I'm full of shit. Okay, I'm not going to tell you what to do. But I recommend that my students, those oathed under me, take it one step at a time. Find your landing place. Learn patience. Learn to be humble to the leaders of the different planes of the astral in which you want to traverse. Learn to slow down and enjoy life and stop being in such a hurry to know it all. Been there, seen it, done it. What else have I got to learn? Well, you go right ahead and ask the gods, what else do I have to learn? That's your tuba for you eat it. I don't want no part of it. Now, traveling around in the astral, like I say, is it is subjective to interpretation. It is subjective to interpretation. I say again, it is subjective to interpretation, right? I said a while ago, I recommend walking, going on a journey. 90% of all education and knowledge forming wisdom, the combination of education and knowledge forms wisdom. It's done on the journey. It's not jumping from pop to pop and done. What have you learned? You haven't learned a damn thing. But if you walk the journey and you enjoy, yes, the experience, you enjoy the lessons. Some of them hurt like hell, some of them are a pain in the ass, and some of them you're like, holy shit, why did I let myself go through that? And then you sit by the fire and you take it all in. You may have others come up to your fire you've never seen before, don't know them from Adam. They ask, sir or ma'am, do you mind if I join your fire? Do you mind if I sit down and rest my weary? Please, yes, by all means, come. Um, Food, drink makes itself abundant in the astral. Never bothered to ask where it come from. Don't care. All I know is if I was hungry, there was food. If I was thirsty, there was drink. Whatever I thought I wanted to drink, there it was. Sweet. So I tell the traveler, sit, take a load off, partake. There's the tray. Eat your fill. It is amazing the conversations that you will have with these travelers that come through the astral that you've never seen before. Now, I want to remind you of something, right? You can control a dream, okay? You can control people in the dream. You can control aspects of the dream once you realize it is a dream. You cannot control the astral or the people in it or the spirits in it. It is a plane non existent of this one. So, you cannot control people or spirits in the astral. You can control yourself, your decisions, your thoughts, your processes, things that you want to see happen. You can ask for anything you want in the astral. And if it is up to spirit guide and master, you might get it. You might not. So, I caution you to be welcoming and friendly to travelers. I've been consciously doing astral since the mid to late 90s. I have as to yet meet anyone in the astral that meant me harm, that wanted to compete with me to show me how much better than I they are. Unlike this plane, where competitive nature lead people to know it all, see it all, been it all, better than anything or anyone else. And I'm okay with that. Okay, fine. But I have never yet, in all these years, since the mid to late 90s, had anyone traverse the astral to try to hurt me. Now, I say that, and I will seemingly contradict that later. But it is a chosen place, it is a chosen time, and that comes later in the series. Not exactly sure yet. I gotta compile it all out, but that will come later in the series. Okay. So, walking is a good thing. I have walked miles in the astral. Never, ever woken up tired or worn out or my legs hurting from walking all night in the astral. Seeing the different things, meeting the different people, enjoying um, enjoying the camaraderie, the parties, the drumming, the adult entertainment, and the enjoyment of meeting others and just enjoying their company. So walking the astral definitely has its plus, right? Normally, if I've spent the entire night walking, I generally don't ever wake up tired or worn out. Now, being in an astral battle on the astral battlefield, yes, I have woken up with bumps and bruises and scrapes and scratches and beat all to hell and felt like somebody rode me hard and the hell with hanging me up. Um, just a kind of an ongoing thing. But that is a topic for a later chapter. So, back to moving around in the astral, getting around. Well, we covered walking. Walking is what I say where you should start, right? Babies do not jump out of the crib and run across the hallway. Doesn't happen. Never found a case of it. Not going to happen. If you say you did it, I'm going to call you a liar. Because physically, mentally, and psychologically, a baby that barely does good to crawl is not going to jump out of the crib and start running. Not going to happen. Find a documented case, prove it to me, and I'll stand corrected. But I've looked. So, I begin with walking. I enjoyed it. Even though sometimes I walked as Pegasus, sometimes I walked as Chinook, sometimes I walked as Don. And I practiced switching back and forth from the different astral spirits. My spirit walked as Don, I was me. My spirit walked as Pegasus, I was the teacher. My spirit walked as Chinook, I was the warrior. And I learned to call on those different three, not only in the astral, but on this plane as well. So you can, in a sense, bring your spirit self that's in the astral back to this plane with you. Don't get me wrong. No, I've never shapeshifted to a horse, and I've never, to my knowledge, shapeshifted to Chinook. Not that I know of. Not that I've ever been told. But anyway, so let's go to the second form of movement in the astral. Using a form of transportation that is outside of the human body. Okay? Flying, swimming long distances underwater without the need of air. The water produced the air for you. So you have flying, you have swimming, you have walking, and then you have thought. Thought transference. My master taught me that with thought transference, you can be as many places as you need to be at one time. I'm still working on that one. If y'all can do it, more power to you. I'm happy for you. But I have to date been able to be in three places at one time in the astral and come back with solid memory of all three places simultaneously. Now, I have been in one place as Don, one place as Pegasus, and another place as Chinook at different times doing different things throughout the evening or the night or the day or whenever I'm meditating, but I have never mastered three places at the same exact time, splitting the spirit into three and come back with memory of it. Nor have I ever been reported to have done so. Now, I'm a bit of a skeptic, in case you hadn't noticed. I don't tend to take people too serious. I don't tend to take what people say too serious. I don't tend to take the things that people say they have done or been or experienced too serious. I sit back and I listen to people talk. I look at their body language, I look at their energy, I look at their eyes, I listen to what they have to say, and if they believe it, if it's something they say that they've done that they believe, okay, rock on. At the end of the day, it doesn't make any difference if I believe what you're saying. It makes a difference if you believe what you're saying, whether it's real, whether it's bullshit, whether it's whatever, right? When you're traveling the astral, there are three essential ways, four essential ways to do it, right? One, walk. Two, fly. Three, swim. Four, thought, projection. You think it and you're there. Again, I say, respect the veils that you want to think yourself into. Because I have attempted to think myself into an area of the astral for which I did not have an invitation. I did not request entry. Those were nights that, pardon me, those were nights that the next morning I woke up not feeling so well. Um, the next day or whatever, I went back to that plane and apologized to the gatekeeper and said, I apologize. I attempted to project myself into an area where I was not welcome. Danae says, I've talked to animals. So have I. So has pretty much anybody else in the astral. And if you've talked to animals on this plane and understood the exact language of what they were saying and the exact things that they were talking about, I will bend over and call you master. But yes, it is common for people to speak to animals in the astral. And as I told you, I am a bit of a skeptic. Okay, I'm a major skeptic. I have been around long enough that I have a very wonderful bullshit meter that has never failed me yet in all of these years. It really hasn't. The only time my bullshit meter has ever failed me is when I refused to use it. That's a topic for another discussion. So anyway, what have we talked about this evening? Damn, we're already almost at a quarter till. We've talked about how to see your astral self. I personally have three selves. That doesn't really make any sense, but I personally have three spiritual um, architectures in the astral. I have Dawn, Pegasus, and Chinook, right? I've met people, one of them is in here this evening, who has taken on or been known to take on the shape of a dragon, right? The only way I've ever seen him in astral was a very old, very wise gentleman with very little to say, and when he said, you listened. And I'll let you figure out who that is. So you can meet all imaginable forms of people in the astral. I have told my students that if you are approached by a very wiry headed, tall Scotsman with a fiery red hair and a beard, if you want to know whether or not it's me, look at my eyes. You'll know whether or not it's me or someone else. If you're approached by a Pegasus, generally a whitish gray. I'm not white, I'm not black. I'm a kind of a whitish gray, so I've been told. And so I've kind of noticed. Um, I tell people, you'll know it's me by my eyes. And of course, sorry, if you don't recognize me when I'm in astral as Don, um, sorry. Now, we we have multiple different areas of the astral where we can go. There are many, many things that we can do in the astral that cannot be done on this plane. There are, like I say, there's the realm of the unicorns, there's the realm of the Pegasus. There are realms that you can go to and study the ancient Germanian tribes. You can go and meet with the ancient Pictish masters that reside in the astral. You can also meet with past long family members and ancestors in the astral. That'll be probably chapter 4 is how to meet people, how to meet and communicate and work with your ancestors. Um, Sean, you will never ride me, my brother. Yes, love you too, but you will never ride me. Clint's Animal Farm is a polar bear or just a bear, not sure. I hear you. Um, Cindy says kinky shaman. Yes, shamans are kinky, and we're good at it. Anyway, I digress. So, chapter 4. Chapter 4 will be on how to meet specific people, how to traverse the astral with a specific intention. Um, Moving into the astral with a specific intention in mind of I would like to speak to my recently passed grandmother, please. Now, I will caution you, and I will caution you again next week with that broadcast. Be respectful of those who have passed. If those who have passed have moved on, you do not have the right to call them back. I will say this again. If one who has passed has moved on into the next life, you do not have the right to call them back. You do have the right to place a request on the web, not the internet, not the World Wide Web, but on the web of the astral, to speak to or communicate with an ancestor or a recently departed loved ones. I will tell you this. Ancestors, and when I say ancestors, I'm talking about 100 years old or older, right? Ancestors I'm talking about are 100 years old or older. They are easier to reach than the newly departed spirits who have passed on. They really are. So, we look for it. We look forward to it. Next week, chapter 4. Communicating. and finding people in the astral. I would like for you all, if you have communicated with loved ones in the astral, bring your stories. Be thinking about it. If you're practicing achieving astral and you've made that achievement and you're working with a spirit guide, I say again, respect, honor, and respect boundaries. The guardians of the astral is not someone you want to piss off. I'm just saying. Cindy says, I want to see Sandy again. Send the request to the web, not the internet, the astral web. And there is a series of books that you can read that have absolutely nothing to do with anything in the world but fantasy. But it is required reading for most of my students, especially as of late. Those who have students read under me have a set of books that I like for them to read. I'll tell you this, I'll let you in on a little secret. 99% of all of my students never ever read my recommended reading. So when I talk about the things of astral travel, and I talk about the things of locating the keys of your existence, and I talk about the things of placing information on the astral web, or traveling the web of the astral, sending messages throughout the web of the astral, you're not going to have a freaking effing clue what I'm talking about. And I'm not going to put that here. Dun, dun, dun. But anyway, that being said, we are approaching closing time for Live with the Shaman. I do say, though, in all honesty, take your time in astral travel. Don't rush it. You have all the time in the world. Enjoy the travels and the people, most especially the people, the creatures, the metaphysical creatures, um, the intermingling of creatures. Um, I'm not much of a follower of unipegs, but my understanding is they are in the astral, these unipegs. I've never actually seen one. I've just heard. I've seen unicorns and I've seen Pegasus, but I've never seen an actual unipeg. Hmm, kind of interesting. So think about it, right? Part 4, meeting people, introducing yourself to people. And I will also cover in meeting people what to do when you meet the librarian. She's a hoot. How to find your astral master should you decide to go to the astral college. How to get into the astral battlefield if you're sure that's a place you want to be. It's not for the lighthearted, I promise you. Right. So think about that. We'll see you next week. If nothing rips, strips, or tears, right here, live with a shaman. Have a great week. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.